The hour has grown thin, the kind that makes walls feel farther apart. The room is small, but the light is large, an unblinking circle pressed against the night. Her phone leans on a stack of paperbacks, their spines tired from being asked to shoulder a purpose they never imagined. Shadows collect in the places the light does not reach. Under the chair, in the corners where dust drifts like a quiet snowfall, the air tastes of old coffee and the heat from electronics that have been awake too long. She scrolls, thumb moving on reflex, each 30 seconds ushering in a new certainty. Faces are lacquered with confidence. Words arrive with the clean edges of someone who's edited out doubt. There is a rhythm to it. A beat drop, a punchline, a promise. She watches as if the clips are a series of doors swinging open and shut, each revealing a living room softer than hers, a morning brighter, a voice steadier. The room, meanwhile, stays the same. The circle of light, the 1 a.m., the books that do not complain. She has learned to measure time not by minutes, but by attempts. Take 1, take 2, take 8, take 12. She has learned to measure herself not by what is true, but by what remains after the trimming. She rubs her knuckles and watches the powdery sheen left by the light on her skin. The glow is cool, clinical, like a lamp above a hospital bed, illuminating, but indifferent. It frames her face with the promise of focus, yet offers no warmth. It does not scold, it does not praise, it simply insists. In this hour, the world is both crowded and empty, crowded with lives poured into rectangles. Empty because the space between her and another person could stretch across oceans. She puts on the voice she uses when she wants to sound effortless. The vowels are clipped, the smile practiced. A joke she no longer finds funny waits at the end of the line. She tries it once more. The timing lands, but her stomach tightens as if she has swallowed a small stone. There are clothes in gentle disarray, 2 shirts that never made it back to hangers, a jacket on the chair like someone is mid-departure and has been for days. A scented candle, unlit, holds a shallow pool of wax shaped by failures to begin. She notices the candle's wick is mushroomed at the tip from the last time it burned, as if it remembers fire better than she does. The ring light breathes its steady circle, and the candle remains dark as a pocket. The phone lens is an eye that never blinks. She has dated its gaze long enough to know it never forgives uncertainty. On the best days, its blackness feels like a well. On nights like this, it feels like a mouth. She leans closer until the ring of light draws a pale crown in her pupils. For a moment, she seems held in orbit by it. A small moon around a greater, colder planet. Outside, the wet street reflects the city's tired constellations. Traffic lamps and pharmacy signs, a diner's red script washing the sidewalk in a low fever. Someone laughs far away. It arrives through the window as a thin ribbon of sound and dissolves before it reaches the bed. The laugh does not belong to her, and the absence of it here is its own kind of presence. She scrolls again. A girl with perfect eyeliner says she finally figured it out. A young man lists morning routines that fixed everything. A therapist speaks in warm, measured cadence, dividing ache into steps you can climb. The advice is soft. It is also everywhere. She tries to drink from it, but the water slips through. Thirst becomes a habit. She begins another take. I just wanted to say, she begins, and the sentence feels foreign, like a coat that almost fits. She pauses to adjust the angle by a finger's width. How many degrees separate a stranger's indifference from a moment of being seen? Her thumb trembles as if the muscle has learned the truth her mind will not yet say. She clears her throat. She smiles. She does the joke, the pivot, the promise. When she stops, the room returns as if surfacing from a pool, damp with the effort of pretending to be dry. There is a sound that follows all performances. It is not applause. It is the slow settling of objects back into themselves. The chair remembers being a chair. The jacket remembers being worn. The ring light remembers only its own light as she watches her face in the screen, two-dimensional, obedient. The expression is right, but the eyes do not belong to the voice. They look like they are waiting to be consulted. What am I worth when the video ends? She whispers, not to the camera but to the light as if it can answer. The question does not echo. It lays down on the bed beside her and stares at the ceiling. The hour does not move. The light continues, as if nothing has been asked. She sets the phone down face first as if to give it sleep. The circle holds steady. In its glow, the dust begins to look like drifted snow again. and she thinks of winter without windows, of roads that go on and on without but destinations. Somewhere below the floor, a pipe clinks. Somewhere inside her chest, another kind of clinking, the mind's small tools, tired from carving herself into shapes. The room is unchanged, and yet the night has drawn tight enough that even the smallest detail feels underlined. The unlit candle, the paperbacks, the quiet crown of light in her eyes. She sits very still, as if stillness can keep something important from slipping away. The city keeps breathing through the window. The ring light shines without warmth. The question waits beside her, patient as winter. The wound is quiet but sharp. It does not scream. It whispers in the hollow between clips, in the silence after a video is posted, and nothing happens. It whispers, "You are measured in seconds, not in soul." 30 seconds of desirability, 30 seconds of humor, 30 seconds of pain that must be palatable, digestible, wrapped in captions for strangers who may never stop scrolling long enough to listen. She craves connection. Yet each post leaves her emptier. The paradox gnaws quietly. She wants to be seen, but she despises the mask required to be noticed. She wants to be real, but reality garners no applause. She wants to be loved, but the price is to sell herself in fragments. Never whole, never entire. She remembers recording 12 drafts of the same clip. The laugh was too flat, the lighting too harsh, the delivery not sharp enough. Each attempt deleted, each deletion a small burial. By the time the 13th began, she no longer knew what the joke was meant to be. The ring light looked down on her without compassion, a judge disguised as a moon. The contradiction deepens. She whispers to herself, "I want to be known." But the method of being known feels like erasure. What people recognize are fragments she cannot inhabit. Her smile without her sadness, her voice without her doubt, her body without its weariness. The algorithm has trained her nerves to twitch at silence. A video with no views after an hour feels like abandonment. A video with hundreds feels like exposure. Both wound her differently. Both whisper the same lie. Your value is in numbers. One night, she opens a direct message from a stranger. "You're perfect," it says. The words glow for a moment, then dim into hollowness. Perfect to whom? Perfect for what? The compliment feels like glass. It reflects her shape but offers no weight, no warmth. She deletes the message and stares again at the ring of light. She thinks of the hours she has given away, the nights she fell asleep with makeup still on, the mornings she rehearsed lines in the shower. She remembers the ache in her jaw from holding a smile too long, the headache from squinting into light that pretended to be day. And then the thought arrives, soft but merciless. If I disappeared tomorrow, would the algorithm even notice? This is suffering not chosen, but imposed by culture. The platform does not demand chains, it demands performance. The weight is subtler, but no less binding. She feels like a commodity polished for market, a product competing for seconds of attention in a theater where every seat is empty, but every gaze is measuring. And still, part of her hopes the algorithm might glance her way, might pluck her from the flood and say, "You are enough." This hope is both cruel and necessary. It keeps her here at 2 a.m., eyes aching, posture slouched, recording yet another version. Her eyes fall on the unlit candle again. She wonders if lighting it would make her face softer in the glow, if it would make her seem warmer, more inviting, more real. She does not strike the match. She leaves the candle dark and the thought unfulfilled. Her body sags under the weight of pretending. She scrolls again. 30 seconds of beauty, 30 seconds of answers, 30 seconds of certainty. She feels herself vanish between them, as though she's becoming less real with each comparison. The ring light watches her still, steady and merciless. It demands no rest. It asks for nothing but her face. And in the silence between deletes, she hears her own question rise again, sharper this time. What am I worth when the video ends? The interruption arrives without warning. No grand collapse, no dramatic gesture, just the simple blink of a dead battery. The screen goes dark mid-sentence, and with it, the entire performance collapses into quiet. She stares at the black rectangle in her hand, its sudden refusal to play the game. No face, no comments, no audience. The small red light that once signaled recording is gone. The performance has evaporated, leaving only a silence so total, it feels alive. The room becomes a witness. The books stacked beneath the phone lean still. The clothes on the floor wait in their crumpled shapes. The jacket on the chair hangs limp. its sleeves outstretched as if longing for a body to fill them. And in the middle of it all, the ring light hums on, steady and unbothered. It casts its pale circle into the dark, framing a stage where nothing happens. For the first time in hours, there is no performance, no chase, no applause to anticipate. Only herself. She notices her breath, how shallow it has become, as though her lungs too have been edited into fragments. She takes a deeper one now, and the air feels thick, unfamiliar, almost heavy. She feels the weight of her own heartbeat echoing in the stillness. How strange, she thinks, that I can hear myself only when everything else stops. The silence at first feels hostile, like a reprimand, but slowly something softens. In the quiet, she begins to hear a voice, not external, not algorithmic, but something buried beneath layers of performance. It is not loud, it does not shout. It comes as a whisper, but one with a gravity she cannot ignore. Meaning is not in applause. Meaning is in how you choose to face the silence. The words arrive not as revelation, but as recognition, as though they had been waiting in the corners of the room all along, patient and unyielding. Patient and unyielding. She repeats them, uncertainly at first, then with more conviction. It is not the crowd's approval that defines me. It is the stance I take toward this hunger, this loneliness, this waiting. Her eyes shift back to the ring light. Once it seemed like an overseer, a judge in white fire. Now, in the absence of the phone, she sees it differently. It is a hollow circle, empty, a shape without content. An emptiness she realizes is not only absence, it is also space. In that circle is room. Room to breathe, room to choose. She had mistaken it for a cage, when in truth, it was only a frame. The power lies not in the circle itself, but in what she places inside it. She leans forward closer and whispers into its hollow center, "You do not decide what I am, I do." Her voice sounds strange in the air, unrecorded, unmeasured, but it belongs to her, raw and whole. She glances at the unlit candle again. For hours, it has been an accessory she imagined using for better light, for softer shadows, but now she sees it differently. The candle, with its small wick curved and waiting, is not a tool for performance. It is simply itself. Wax wick, potential, patient, ready to burn, when chosen, not when demanded. The thought steadies her. She realizes she too is not here to serve the endless appetite of applause. She is not a commodity sculpted into clips. She is, at her core, a human being, capable of waiting, of choosing, of burning with meaning for her own sake. Her shoulders drop. She notices the tension in her jaw, the ache behind her eyes. She lets them soften. In the stillness, she feels an almost imperceptible shift, as if a window has opened inside her chest, letting in a sliver of air that had been locked out for too long. And then she remembers a line she once read, floating back with uncanny timing. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our attitude. She lets the words sit inside her, not as a slogan, but as a truth newly alive. This moment is her space. This silence is her chance. She looks at the blank phone, powerless now. It lies on the books like an obedient child, finally put to sleep. No red light, no digital heartbeat. She looks back at the ring light, glowing steadily, neither friend nor foe. Empty, waiting. Her lips part with a small, involuntary smile, not the trained one, not the manicured one, but something smaller, truer. It feels unfamiliar, like trying on her own skin after months of costumes. She whispers again, softer than before, but with a conviction that surprises her. I am not the performance. I am the one who chooses. And with that, the circle of light loses its judgment. It becomes what she decides. No longer a judge, no longer a mouth hungry for fragments, but simply a lantern waiting to be carried. The silence remains, but it is no longer frightening. It is fertile, like soil untouched. In the hollow circle, she sees not emptiness, but possibility. In the quiet, she feels not abandonment, but space to breathe. For the first time in a long while, she senses herself whole, unfragmented, unmeasured. She's not a 30-second clip, she is a life, and she has remembered it. Here's your piece, cut and breathe for spoken voice. Tender, rhythmic, spacious, like someone remembering at midnight. The room has not changed. The clothes still in heaps, the candle still unlit, the phone lifeless on its pile of books. And yet, something inside her has shifted so completely that the familiar space feels new, almost strange. She lifts her eyes to the ring light again. Only moments ago, it was a tyrant, a cold judge. Now, through the quiet realization settling inside her, it seems transformed. Its hollow circle no longer accuses, it invites. It is no longer a mouth demanding fragments. but an opening, a frame she can fill. The thought arrives with surprising gentleness. I can step into the same stage, but not as a commodity. She sits with the idea, turning it over like a stone in her hand. The light is not the enemy. The silence is not the enemy. Even the platform itself is not the enemy. The danger lies in surrendering her freedom to them. In forgetting, she can choose her stance. Her mind flickers to the countless faces she scrolled past, polished, bright, endlessly repeating the same rhythms. She remembers the confessions too, quiet admissions of loneliness buried under hashtags, voices trembling through the mask of confidence, and she realizes she is not alone in her ache. So many are caught between the same contradictions, desperate to be real, yet taught to perform. This is the moment she understands. The suffering of being unseen can be transfigured into meaning. If she chooses to speak, not for applause, but for truth, her voice will matter. Even if only to herself, even if only to one. She pictures a simple act, recording not to impress, not to chase numbers, but to confess honestly, like writing a letter to a single friend. She imagines posting a video that may gather no likes at all, and choosing to honor it anyway. In that choice, she is no longer a commodity. She is a soul in search of connection. The ring light still shines, but now it is only a tool, like a lantern on a table. She leans closer, whispers into its circle, not to millions, but as if to one unseen listener who may need to hear her voice. You are not alone. The words hover in the room. She feels their weight. Not measured in likes, not bound to metrics, but carried in her chest as proof. Proof that she can speak truth into the dark. She thinks of young workers quietly leaving offices where their dignity was starved. She thinks of classmates retreating into silence, confessions buried in private notes. She thinks of friends whose smiles disguise exhaustion. The hunger for authenticity runs everywhere, hidden under filters, beneath captions, pressed into silence by the fear of not being enough. And in that recognition, she feels less isolated. The ache that once felt like her private prison reveals itself as a shared condition. The ring light, once her accuser, is suddenly just a mirror, reflecting a wider truth. Many stand in this circle, many feel this wound. Her posture straightens, breath deepens. She places the dead phone gently aside, not as a weapon abandoned, but as an instrument that can be reclaimed. She will turn it on again, but not as before. The algorithm will not choose for her. She will choose for herself. She whispers once more, this time with the calm of someone who has survived a long night. I will not disappear into the noise. I will be present, even if no one listens. The ring light glows steadily. She does not flinch. It is a lantern that she can hold, not to dazzle, not to blind, but to guide. A tool, not a tyrant. An opening, not a prison. And in this reframing, she discovers the quiet dignity of freedom. The world may remain the same. The silence may still stretch wide, but within it she carries a new stance. She will speak with honesty. She will face the emptiness. And in doing so, she will transform it. The truth arrives with the weight of a whisper. If I do not choose meaning, the algorithm will choose for me. She sits in the chair, eyes on the circle of light, and imagines the paths diverging. One, familiar. She becomes a sequence of clips scattered like fallen leaves. 100 videos stitched together, her face repeating until even she forgets which smile was real. Applause rising and fading. A cycle that erodes the memory of her own voice. A soul slowly traded for statistics. The other path is quieter, riskier, but more alive. To speak without measuring, to create without bowing to the numbers, to honor her own words, even if the silence stretches long. In that path, she is no longer consumed by performance. She is restored by presence. She thinks of small acts that might embody this choice. Posting one video not for likes, but for honesty. Letting it stand, even if it gathers dust. Sitting with the silence of no comments, and still believing the words were worth saying. Walking outside without the ring light, allowing sunlight to do what artificial glow never could, warm her, not just frame her. The more she imagines, the more the contrast sharpens. To surrender is to vanish, piece by piece, into the appetite of metrics. To choose is to remain whole, even unseen. She pictures others, co-workers counting down to 5 o'clock, quietly quitting because they cannot bear another day of feeling unseen. Friends scrolling endlessly at night, their laughter forced into microphones while their eyes stay tired. Strangers who post filtered faces, chasing perfection that hollows them out. They too are in danger of erasure, not of body, but of self. The parallels sting because they are real. The age of abundance has made meaning scarce. In a world where everyone is visible, so few feel seen. The thought comes, sharp and sobering, if I do not change, I will lose myself. And no one can give that back. The weight of it sits heavy in her chest. It is not melodrama, not exaggeration, it is clarity. She has seen what happens when life is outsourced to noise. She knows the risk is not that she will fail, but that she will forget herself in succeeding at the wrong thing. Her throat tightens, not in fear, but in recognition. This is the true cost, not the embarrassment of low views, not the sting of silence, but the gradual disappearance of her own essence, traded for a currency that will never care for her. The ring light glows steadily, waiting. She no longer feels its judgment, but she knows now it can be dangerous in her hands if she forgets who she is. The room feels fragile, balanced between despair and decision. And yet, within that fragility is a strange kind of power. The knowledge that even in the smallest acts she can choose differently. She stands, finally, and turns to the window. The rain has slowed, and outside the pavement shines, reflecting the first traces of morning. No audience waits there, no comments, no algorithm, only the world itself. Silent and vast. She presses her palm to the glass and feels the coolness of it seep into her skin. It feels more real than any clip she has made in weeks. And she understands the question is not whether silence is frightening. The question is whether she dares to fill it with truth instead of performance. She rests her hand on the switch and almost reverently turns the ring light off. The circle vanishes, leaving behind a deeper shade of silence. For a moment, she wonders if she will feel emptiness without it, if the absence will swallow her. But instead, the darkness feels like rest, like soil, ready to hold a seed. Her eyes catch the window. In the reflection, a woman looks back. Unadorned, a little tired, but unbroken. She studies her own gaze and recognizes something she had almost forgotten. This is who she is when no one is watching. This is the self that cannot be edited, the one who survives when all devices fail. She whispers softly, not to the camera this time, but to the quiet room, I am still here. The thought arrives, tomorrow she will turn the ring light on again, but not as she once did, not as a slave to numbers, not as a commodity cut into 30 seconds. Tomorrow, it will be a lantern. Hers to carry, hers to direct. Its circle will no longer trap her, it will illuminate the truth she chooses to share. She imagines speaking into it, not for a crowd, not for applause, but for one unseen listener. A stranger awake at 2 a.m., scrolling with the same ache in their chest. If even one soul pauses, if even one person feels less alone, then her voice will have found its meaning. And if no one stops, if the silence continues, her words will still matter. Because that they were spoken honestly, because they preserved her humanity. The candle on her desk catches her attention again. Its wick remains blackened from the last burn, waiting. She runs her finger along the rim of the glass. She does not light it now, but she knows she will tonight. Not for the perfect backdrop, not to soften her image, but simply to honor its quiet purpose. Flame, she realizes, does not exist for an audience. It burns because it must. And so will she. She thinks of others, millions like her scattered across glowing screens, caught between the hunger to be seen and the exhaustion of performing. Workers leaving offices with dignity frayed, students posting smiles while carrying unbearable silence, friends whose laughter online masks the fatigue in their eyes. To each of them, she wishes she could hand this fragile truth. You are not your numbers, you are not your fragments, you are whole. The healing act is small, almost invisible. Speak once today as if one soul is listening. Even if the silence remains, let your words stand. Even if no hand reaches back, honor your voice as proof that you lived, that you endured, that you chose. She feels the weight of another thought, one that has stayed with her since the night began. But now it takes on its full shape. If I do not change, I will lose myself. And no one, no applause, no algorithm, no audience can give that back. The words do not terrify her anymore. They steady her. They are not a threat, but a vow, a boundary drawn to protect the fragile, irreplaceable self within her. She glances once more at the ring light. It stands silent, waiting. She no longer sees a judge. She no longer sees a cage. She sees only a circle, hollow and open. Tomorrow, she will decide what it illuminates. Tomorrow, it will be her lantern, not for performance, but for presence. And as the morning sun gathers strength, spilling across her face, she closes her eyes and feels its warmth. It is not a light she can control. It does not measure. It does not judge. It simply shines, as it has for ages, on the worthy and the weary alike. The story ends not with applause, not with noise, but with the quiet assurance of a choice reclaimed. Even in a world of endless distraction, the freedom to choose remains. And in that freedom, there is dignity. In that choice, there is life.